with what they have done? Or do you not think that the powers that they have are subject to abuse as well?
There's no power, it has always been said that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. There's no power that is not subject to abuse. But in line with the principles of checks and balances, I think that it is appropriate that an arm of government should have some form of control over the other arm. The executive, for example, should have some form of control over the legislature, over the national assembly.
Isn't that what they're doing in this case? Because what it seems like is happening is a case of bullying.
In this particular case, it is, you may call it bullying, but it is it's an unusual situation which has resulted in unusual tendencies. It's from the unusualness of how Oteh came out in terms of confronting, as it were, both her own staff, both the National Assembly, and in fact, so to speak, the entire system of the government. That may have resulted in the unusualness of the situation. I think that it's an unusual situation, and therefore, that is why you may...
What is unusual about it?
It's unusual because you don't find it every day that the National Assembly will ask the executive to send a particular head of an MDA packing. It's an unusual situation, and look at how it has dragged, such that the National Assembly has refused, or so to speak, has allocated zero fund to SEC. It's unusual. I think, from my little knowledge of history, I can't recall any situation where there has been such a situation. And I think that for such a novel situation to arise, it is an absolute and unusual. It's an absolute unusualness.
Does it make it any more difficult for the executive arm of government when, even in the light of all of this, the DG of NCA had to go?
Yes.
Because some members of the House of Reps also recommended that he be removed.
Yes.
And then he was removed,
yes.
For whatever reason.
Yes.
But that resolution was not, well, was it a resolution? Not sure. But recommendation from some members.
Yes.
And then it was executed.
Yes.
And then that could have possibly galvanized them, saying, okay, well, if that could happen.
I think the reluctance and the failure for the executive to have acted timeously on time, so to speak, in negotiating or dialoguing or getting the understanding of the National Assembly has made it get to this point that if the executive acts, it will be more or less like an embarrassment to them. And so they have to look for a negotiated settlement. It has to be a negotiated settlement. Executive cannot insist on Aruma Oteh remaining, and by so doing does not, by that act, impugn the integrity and sanctity of the National Assembly.
Any question of precedent here?
In terms of what?
Rightly or wrongly, if they insist, if they both stick to their grounds, if the executive arm of government executes this one, that's a precedent they've set.
Yes, I think if I get your question, what I can comment on that is that if the executive goes ahead and insists on leaving Aruma Oteh there, and the National Assembly also insists on zero allocation to SEC, there will come a time when one of the parties will breach the Appropriation Act. And if that happens, it becomes a question of breach of law. And that is where the power, it's a serious matter. That's where the power of the National Assembly lies. I would not come here and say that the executive is bound to accept the resolution of the National Assembly. But I think that there ought to have been better approaches. I think it's political. I think that it is more like political. If you remember, there is also some precedents in terms of when the members of the National Assembly raise committees and investigate, so to speak, in line with their powers under sections 81, 82 of the Constitution as amended. You find one or two of their members also being implicated for fraud or corruption, as it were. We have Farouk Lawan's case, we have Elumelu's case, we have a whole lot of other cases, like Nembe's case. So I think, yes, that there is a belief, a feeling at the National Assembly that the executive is out to disrupt their work. The National Assembly also on their part is also insistent on also showing that they also are representing the people and have the right to also carry the people along and do according to what the people ask them to do.
Is there a way out of this? Because we really can't keep going on like this.
Yes.
It's been on since last year. We just played the Abati's comment concerning her recall, and that was way last year. So what's the way out?
I would look at it in terms of short-term, the present situation and futuristic situation. In terms of the present situation, short-term, I would think that the executive and the National Assembly should come together for the interests of good governance, negotiate, dialogue, and shift grounds. Let it be a win-win situation. Oteh is not the key to the success, entire success of this capital market. Even if she's okay, even if she's good, it does not mean that, like the Bible would say, that if you fail to praise me, I will raise stones to praise myself. That's what God said. It is also possible that we can find somebody of equal value who can also take SEC to the next level.
Well, what message does
the
that
second solution that I would recommend is that the National Assembly should go ahead. Either they come under Section 81 and 82 of the 1999 Constitution as amended and enact a law empowering them to use the principle of joint resolution to make some of their resolutions
You have
binding.
to remember that this wasn't a joint resolution. This was just
that is why I said it's futuristic.
So even if in futuristic purposes they make that particular they amend it to read the joint resolutions, this will still not come under it.
It will take care of future events. Future events when the National Assembly may feel strongly about certain situations and will come together and arrive at a resolution.
Have there been situations where the National Assembly reaches a joint resolution and it was ignored by the executive arm?
This is part of it. By implication, it is Senate by assenting, by agreeing to the provision in the Appropriation Act, has also agreed with the House of Reps. We must accept that fact that the Senate is in on it, even if they have not come out clearly to state that Oteh should be sacked. They have by implication agreed and accepted that. So you can also look at it as a joint resolution by implication.
Okay, now that is arguable. Let's look at the your first solution where you say that it doesn't have to be her. I mean, you can always find a replacement. What message does that send to people that we bring in to come and revive a place? The people, the operators in the capital market say she's done a wonderful job. Is that how we say thank you?
I don't think that comment by operators it's wholesome. It's holistic. It is not every capital market operator that will come here and tell you that she has done a wonderful job in the capital market. There will also be others who will also give you reasons why she has been a failure. See, the capital market by itself is recovering by itself. Of course, there will be certain disciplinary regulations that were put in place by SEC. But naturally, it fell. And once it fell. That period of 2007, 2008, 2009, the only way it can go is up with good management. In the main body of the capital market, which is the stock exchange presently, it's under the leadership of a very qualified person. And such situation, coming from the background of the previous failure, such situation will give that person who is sitting there at the stock exchange presently the impetus to do that which ought to be done to improve the capital market. It may not necessarily be a function of the influence of SEC or the influence of Oteh as it were. It may be a natural consequence of events. You're
saying maybe, but what if maybe it's through what she's done?
That's what I'm saying. Maybe it can be, but if you want to compare, if
we're relying on the if there, and we say, okay, maybe it's through what she's done. Is that how we now say thank you?
Maybe that is, you are assuming that, you are presuming that is what she has done. If
I'm going with what the capital market operators say,
if that's what she has done, she has achieved something.
Yeah.
I am also saying that it's also possible that there may be somebody somewhere too who can also do as much as she has done, or even better, without taking anything away from what she has done. What I'm saying is that if it is your right hand that will cause you to sin, cut it off. If it's your right hand that will stop you from going to heaven, cut it off.
Interesting analogy there, but let's go back to what you talked about. If it becomes protracted,
yes,
at some point, some party may just have to breach the law.
It becomes the question of who will blink first.
Yeah, but as it is now, I mean, can we say that SEC then is skating on thin ice, legally speaking? Because, I mean, Zikobe talked about the fact that if they haven't repealed that section of the Investment and Security Act, which talks about the fact that, well, you can spend internally generated funds without appropriation from the National Assembly.
Yes.
So what if they go to court and then they cite that part? That would be a point.
No, if there's an Appropriation Act, you see, what you are trying to say is a conflict where there are two laws conflicting. By implication, yes.